Good afternoon. It's Tuesday here. I know that because the rubbish bins go out. When you become an old fart, you do a lot of things, and one of them is just forget what day it is. The other is you must have, one is not enough, you must have a collection of, for each job, you need a foolish old fart hat. So I've been out in the garden today, and this is my suburban foolish old fart hat. Not to be confused with my farm foolish old fart hat. They're two different things. And I have a couple dress foolish old fart hats, but I don't wear them very often because I don't dress up real well. So, Tuesday afternoon, I believe it to be, God, I'm gonna guess here, the 8th, 28th? The end of the month? Might be wrong, 27th? I might be way off, what do I know? But yeah, 28 I think today. So, or 7. But the idea that foolish old farts forget the dates, wear funny hats, and do terribly meaningless things is nothing new. So we will carry on. What I'm doing here is, it's been a kind of a long day. I've mowed, lots of rain around us. It's dumped on us a lot of times. If it rains, I turn it off. You won't hear me. The recording won't work over it. But I was up in time today to get the entire yard mowed. Did a really good job on that. Very pleased. Because the rains have come in after quite a dry spell, and it's kicking everything into full bloom. So, you know, you got to keep the weeds back, got to keep, it's funny that if we keep it low, the grass wins. If we let it grow big, the weeds come and dominate and they win. So it's just really a process of mowing. And that works really, really, really well if you have good machinery, which I do. So I'm here in the rain, sitting in my shed, listening to music, and I'm getting my next project out. So I'm just gonna quit waffling for a minute and turn this way. Let me see what I can do here. I think that's probably a good shot. This is a 62, 650 Norton, of course, 650 Dominator SS. So as I research this bike, I will learn more about it and explain it more. It was the fastest of the fast when it hit the market. The funny thing is within the same year, if not, 12 months within that period of time, Norton had decided to take this exact same engine and punch it out to a 750, and they created the Atlas, which was just the world's first superbike and so much faster than this. But in its day, amazing. Featherbed frame, you can tell the featherbed. I always point this out, Pino Reeves. God, I can't even, I think that's his name. I terrible if I pronounce it wrong. But he's got something online talking motorcycles. He's involved in bikes in LA, and that's way fucking cool. I nod that, that's cool. But he had a Norton Commander, and he was talking about the featherbed. He's wrong. And if he came here, I would explain to you what a featherbed is and how to identify it. It was made in the 40s. It first came out on the track, long story, but it rode like a featherbed. I'm not saying the ISO, I always say isotonic, but it's actually isolastic frame that came out with the Commandos, was a good frame. A lot of the frames here on these bikes, there's always problems with them, and especially if you push them to the limit, there's places where tensions win over tubing. So these bikes were known for the bed and the engine. The Norton 650 SS engine is a killer engine. It's taken me a few days to get it here because it leaks so damn much. So all of these old bikes, they're not like a modern engine that has a sump on the bottom of the engine and engine pumps that pump the oil through. The oil tank is on the other side here. It's a gravity-fed situation where there are return lines, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a whole different situation where if there are leaks, and if the leaks go all the way up to the highest point, this entire thing will drain itself. Which I don't think we lost the whole oil tank, but we lost a fair portion of it over there. It took me a couple days to clean it up. So I'm gonna get this out, clean it up, spray it up, take it apart. One of the things I've learned from the people I interact with here is really cool in that, and I speak of this with great frequency, is resto mod. So I can restore this to original. This is a numbers matching machine. That engine and that frame came out of the factory together. Most of the parts on this came out of the factory with this bike. This is a pretty cool survivor. Yeah, it's hard to say really, but it says 1,600 miles on the speedometer. That kind of tells me it didn't work for very long. Somebody spun the cable or something. So, but this is a surviving machine. When I bought it, it ran. When I bought it, it was licensed. Another bike I got through my buddy Jim. And the neat thing is, and Jim's proven it, that the bikes are liquid. If you need cash and you got an old bike, you'll find somebody who will buy it. Now you might think, I don't want to blaspheme, but I spoke to somebody that had a Vincent Black Shadow. And it was in pieces, not surprising. It was almost complete, there were things missing. And in their mind, it's worth quite a bit because they've seen them sell for $100,000. So the assumption is, hear the thunder? The assumption is that any Black Shadow, all polished up and complete, will sell for 100 grand or more. That's not the case. I did research on the bike in question that was being offered to me. And you know, it was not a numbers matching. You had no idea about the frame, the engine, where, I mean, they had numbers, but they did not come out together. They were years apart. There's so many questions. Whereas this is basically complete as it was out of the factory with some modification. I haven't looked at the electrical system. I don't think it's been messed with because there's no battery in it. So the original magneto is still sitting there. Like I say, I rode this bike into the shop quite a while ago. I bought this quite a couple of years ago. And I haven't done anything with it. I know what it is and I know what I can do with it. It's got to come all apart. It's got to get all the right seals. A lot of times, you know, especially your gear shift lever or your kickstart lever, in those gearboxes, there are seals that are supposed to keep the oil out. And if we go back and think about it, it's a gravity-fed system where the oil tank is higher than the lowest point in the bike. If one of those seals give, then that will, it doesn't, well, sometimes I've seen it pour out, but normally it's a slow leak and it accumulates. And if you lead bikes like I do, that bike sat in the same place now for quite some time. So I can hear the rain coming. We're 9 minutes in, that's bloggable. I have a habit of getting talking and then going over making it too long to really do anything with. So I'm gonna rewind up. The election is not far off. We've had debates, we've had foolishness. I do think it's a cool thing that Justice Amy Coney Barrett is where she is. I think that's a positive thing. And anyone that can admire, I mean, this woman's not very old, very, very, very experienced and educated. I can't always agree with everything. If you look through her decisions, there's things that I don't really, it's easy not to agree on some things. But the point is, she's a very accomplished woman in a very important place in our time and space. And when you think of a Supreme Court appointment, they're for a long time. And of course, the party in power gets to nominate that person and go back in time where Roosevelt had appointed them all, and he wanted more. He understood that his life. So by 2020, that complete, I mean, and I don't want to use left and right, because Democrats in the old days are where the Republicans, I just think people have swapped. I've been saying that for years, and it's very confusing to me when it's a Democrat that is telling me to shut up, I don't have a voice. And it's like, wait a minute. I was somewhere in a protest march when I was a kid that was saying the opposite to the then Republicans. So I'm confused by it. I don't have answers. I don't try to claim I do. But I just have the insights to say that it's very confused. That is a positive. The appointment of Justice Amy Coney Barrett is a positive in our world. I think it's great. There's discussions to be had on the Electoral College. That's been going around. And I think it's important that every time the Electoral College is tested, like we did with George Bush II, and as has happened with Donald Trump, it's a positive thing because it proves the framers were right. And there's reasons for that. We need to look at like Florida and what happened in each case to decide. Trump and Bush were totally different situations. So there you go. It's the end of the day. The rains are setting in, and I've got a bit of vlogging to do. Smiles.